Hello, I'm Martin Cullingford, editor of Gramophone Online, and welcome to this edition of the Gramophone podcast. Every year in our Critics' Choice feature, we invite our reviewers to choose a recording released in the past 12 months that they would give as a Christmas present. You can read the full list in the December issue of Gramophone, but I've here asked 4 of our critics to tell us more about the recording they chose, after which we'll hear an excerpt. So let's begin with Richard Lawrence's choice. Blessed Spirit, a Gluck retrospective, from the Classical Opera Company, released by Wigmore Hall Live.
This is a recording of what must have been a wonderful evening at the Wigmore Hall of 3 singers, 2 sopranos and a mezzo, conducted by Ian Page, performing excerpts from Gluck operas. To most of us, a Gluck opera, or Gluck operas, means Orfeo ed Euridice, and indeed there is a substantial excerpt from that opera on the disc, the scene where Orpheus and Eurydice are returning from the underworld. Orpheus turns round, Eurydice dies for a second time, and then Orpheus launches into the famous Che Farò, which is taken at quite a speed here, but Anna Stephanie manages to imbue the aria with a great moving, poignant sense of loss and despair. And there is another aria which is familiar from Orfeo, but it's an example of Gluck recycling a good tune. The familiar version is where Orpheus arrives in the Elysian fields and he comments on the beauty of the sky and the sun and the light and so on. But to me, the music has always sounded rather aquatic, and sure enough, it turns out to be originally an aria from an earlier opera called Ezio. It's a metaphor aria about a stream making its way towards the sea.
And despite the advocacy of recordings such as Cecilia Bartoli's Gluck arias album of a few years ago, these are still arias we're far more likely to hear on an anthology such as this than on the opera stage.
That's quite true. There are some arias from the later operas, the ones adapted for or composed for Paris, which do get staged from time to time, although not very much in this country. But the pre-Orfeo, the 1740s, 1750s operas, who knows whether they would be good on the stage, whether they would work dramatically or not. Tovey talked about Haydn the inaccessible. It's really now Gluck the inaccessible, I would say.
Rob Cowan has chosen Teodoro Anzalotti's recording of the Goldberg Variations, released on the Vinter and Vinter label. Now this is on accordion, so obviously quite an unusual interpretation.
It certainly is. Years ago I got hold of a CD of Stefan Husson, an accordion player, performing the Goldberg Variations. I thought it was absolutely fabulous, and I didn't expect that I'd ever hear another recording using the accordion. That this one came along. And the musicality of it, the virtuosity of it, the range of colours he gets out of the instrument, they're absolutely amazing. And from all those standpoints, I'd honestly say that it's as effective as most versions of the Goldbergs that I've heard on the harpsichord or on the piano. In fact, even more so than many. It has a tremendous impact. So by the time you get to the aria at the end of the work, you've made a real journey going through all these variations and all these different colours and shades and rhythms that Anzalotti makes the most of. It's extraordinary.
Richard Wigmore, you've chosen René Jacobs' new recording of the Magic Flute, released by Harmonia Mundi.
I have indeed, yes. In theory, the world doesn't need a new magic flute, but with René Jacobs around, there's always something new, enlivening, and not just new for the sake of it. I mean, Mozart conceived the magic flute as essentially popular entertainment for a suburban theatre. Yes, there's profound Masonic ritual and just Mozartian genius, of course, but so often the fun aspect, the pantomime origins, are overladen with too much sort of post-romantic solemnity. Jacobs doesn't shortchange the solemn moments, but he infuses the piece with a terrific spirit of fun, joy, irreverence. I mean, his hyperactive forte piano continuo, which we know from other Jacobs Mozart recordings, is brilliantly used. I mean, one of the problems for especially a non-German speaking audience is the reams of dialogue in the magic flute. Well, Jacobs brings them brilliantly alive with A, great acting from his cast, and they are the singers who speak the lines too, bussing in separate actors, and B, fantastically inventive forte piano interjection. So it's all fun and tingling and has a terrific spirit. Well, a Mozartian impish spirit. You really feel that if Mozart were around now, he'd have given it the thumbs up.
Schnelle Füße, rascher Mut, schützt vor Feind, des Weges hohen Hut. Wenn den Wirt an ihn oder sonst erwischen sie uns noch. Wenn den Wirt an ihn oder sonst erwischen sie uns noch. Stille, 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 ich kann's besser. Welche Freude ist wohl größer, Freund an ihn, o hört uns schon, der keine
Richard Whitehouse has chosen Richard Eyre's new disc on NMC, Concertos and Others.
That's right, and it's a timely disc from Richard Eyre's point of view because he's had relatively little coverage in the UK of his music. And this is a good cross-section of his recent music, certainly his recent orchestral music. You get two of the non-concertos, so-called, number 36 for horn and number 31 for trumpet. And they're both concertos in spite of themselves, as you might say. They make play with the concerto genre in a subtle and often sort of provocative manner. And the other work on the disc is number 37B for orchestra, which again is a play on a genre, this time the concerto for orchestra. And it's virtuosic, but not in a showy or extraneous way. It makes great demands on the orchestra as an ensemble, but you have to listen in between the music, if you like, in between the sounds, to work out how it all fits together. But fit together it does, and it's probably the highlight of this disc, I think.